Good evening, everybody. I take immense pleasure in welcoming everybody to the World MS Day 2024. Let us begin the program by inviting all our esteemed dignitaries to the dais. Our chief guest, Mr. M. Murugappan from the Murugappa Group. Sir, please. Good evening, everybody. I take immense pleasure in welcoming everybody to the World MS Day 2024. Let us begin the program by inviting all our esteemed dignitaries to the dais. Our chief guest, Mr. M. Murugappan from the Murugappa Group. Sir, please. Good evening, everybody. I take immense pleasure in welcoming everybody to the World MS Day 2024. Let us begin the program by inviting all our esteemed dignitaries to the dais. Our chief guest, Mr. M. Murugappan from the Murugappa Group. Sir, please. Good evening, everybody. I take immense pleasure in welcoming everybody to the World MS Day 2024. Let us begin the program by inviting all our esteemed dignitaries to the dais. Our chief guest, Mr. M. Murugappan from the Murugappa Group. Sir, please. Should this be open? Good evening, everybody. I take immense pleasure to the World MS Day 2020. Are we good? Because it will do an infinite loop, so we don't want. Professor Mohana Shankar Shiva Prakasham, the head of IITM Brain Center. Sir, welcome. Dr. Ashmin Gandhi, the neuro-ophthalmologist. Sir, welcome. Mr. Sandeep Chitnis, Honorary Secretary, MSSI. And our Miss Anne Gonzalez. Shall we begin? Let's begin the program. Honored chief guest, dignitaries in the dais, doctors, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good afternoon to you. On behalf of MSSI Chennai chapter, I take great pleasure in welcoming one and all to our World MS Day 2024 program today. Without any further delay, let us start our today's program. The theme for our World MS Day 2024 is My MS Diagnosis, Navigating MS Together. Multiple sclerosis, or MS, is a potentially disabling autoimmune disease of the brain and spinal cord. It disrupts communication between the brain and the body and has varying degrees of impact on one's lifestyle. There is still no cure for multiple sclerosis, but currently there are treatments that help speed the recovery from attacks, modify the course of the disease, and manage the symptoms effectively. While all of us agree that the barriers of getting out of the MS attacks or flares are controlled by medicines, the inclusion of non-medical and holistic treatments and therapies, along with the existing medical treatments, also helps make the MS patients lead a good quality of life. What the My MS Diagnosis campaign aims to achieve is proper advocacy of the disease for correct diagnosis and treatment, facilitating access to professionals and the resources for the diagnosis. Of course, nothing is complete without community support to build solidarity and awareness through the various small projects and real-life experiences shared by MS patients in different events. Some of the national initiatives done by Multiple Sclerosis Society of India are community engagement, health care outreach, support services to PWMS, and research initiatives, which include local events and support groups to educate and assist those affected by MS, working with the medical professionals to organize awareness campaigns and diagnostic drives, support services for those who have already been or newly diagnosed with MS, and information on new research and clinical advancement and its treatment options. The dignitaries today will throw more light on all these aspects today as the program progresses and hopefully help us navigate multiple sclerosis together and beyond boundaries for better days to come. Thank you. I would like to call on stage the students of IIT Chennai to render the Tamil Thai Varthu. Can we all stand up for the Tamil Thai Varthu, please?
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமிது தெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you so much. Next, may I please call upon stage all the dignitaries on the dais to begin the program with the lighting of the lamp. Okay. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Hemant Nerurkar, the president of MSSI, to talk to us through Zoom as he was unable to be with us in person today. Let me take this opportunity to speak a few words about him. Mr. Nerurkar is the president of MSSI since October 2021. Currently, he is the chairman of TRL Krosaki Refractories Limited, formerly known as Tata Refractories Limited, a joint venture between Tata Steel and Krosaki Harima Corporations, Japan. Currently, Mr. Nerurkar is the director of Adani Enterprises Limited, NCC Limited, Mumbai International Airport Limited, Navi Mumbai International Airport Private Limited. He was also chairman and independent director at Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals Limited. He has been an independent director on the board of many prestigious listed companies. Mr. Nerurkar joined TISCO in the year 1982 after assuming all the important leadership roles and conferred with several prestigious awards. He became the managing director of TISCO from 1st October 2009 to November 2013. Academically, he is BTech in Metallurgical Engineering from the College of Engineering, Pune University. Nerurkar has attended several management courses in India and overseas, including CEDEP in France. He is associated with several professional organizations such as India Institute of Metals, INSDAG, and AIMA, amongst others. As a board member of many listed companies, he has been in the leadership roles on audit committees, nomination and remuneration committees, stakeholders, relationship committees, risk management committees, and corporate social responsibility committees. Sir, I'm sure we will go on to achieve many dreams and goals with your vast leadership experience, extensive international network, and your knowledge and empathy for MS. The stage is all yours, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Murugappan and dignitaries on the dais. First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity and the center for hosting this particular event. We are, as you mentioned in the introduction, this is a MS is an issue for which there is no immediate or there is no cure as such. But then within whatever means we have, we must ensure that the patients are looked after well and also continue to do research, which is what is the main purpose of being associated with this center, so that we can definitely together find some sort of a solution for our issues. So I don't really want to spend more time with so many dignitaries sitting there on the dais and who are far more knowledgeable than me on this subject. So once again, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity of joining with all of you and wish this seminar all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Let us continue. I take great pleasure in welcoming our chief guest for today, Mr. M.M. Murugappan. Mr. Murugappan needs no introduction to IIT Chennai. He has been a supporter for many initiatives with IIT Madras for over a decade. I will still speak a few words about him. He is the fourth generation member of the Murugappa family and was the executive chairman of the Murugappa Group Corporate Advisory Board from February 2018 until November 2020. Mr. Murugappan now serves as the chairman of the Carborundum Universal Limited as constituent company of the Murugappa Group. He also chairs the boards of Cholamandalam Mitsui Sumitomo General Insurance Company Limited and the Murugappa Water Technology and Solutions. Mr. Murugappan is the chairman of the board of Cyient Limited Hyderabad and an independent director of Carson Cumberbatch in Sri Lanka. He retired from the board of Mahindra & Mahindra in August 2020 after serving multiple terms. He served on the board of governors of IIT Madras for 6 years till November 2011 and has enabled many industry academic partnerships. He now serves on the board of the IIT Madras Research Park and is a mentor to many companies incubated here. He is the chairman in the Board of Governors of Indian Institute of Management, Indore. As trustee of the group's AMM Foundation, he is actively involved in the development of various citizenship initiatives, particularly in education, healthcare, performing arts, and sport. Mr. Murugappan holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the AC College of Technology, University of Madras, and a Master of Science degree also in chemical engineering from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, USA. He is a member of the American and Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers and Plastics and Rubber Institute. He was elected as a fellow member of the Indian Ceramic Society in 2006. Mr. Murugappan's hobbies include golf, reading, walking, classical music, and theater. Welcome, sir. We are indeed honored to have you with us today. The stage is all yours.
Well, thank you for this most embarrassing introduction. Particularly at the IIT, I don't get this many privileges. President Nerurkar, a friend of mine, Mrs. Gonzalez, Dr. Gandhi, my friend, Professor Mohan Shankar, Secretary General Chitnis, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me tell you how honored I am to be here with you this afternoon. It's not always we get a chance to meet people who are outstanding in their own ways. And each one of you is really, really outstanding because you have used your ability rather than letting MS impact you. And so clearly it's your day, and I'm very honored to share it with all of you. So greetings on World MS Day. And I'm very grateful to the Multiple Sclerosis Society of India, and more particularly, my very dear friends, Rema and Vijay Srinivasan, who made the introduction to Ann Gonzalez. And when they made the introduction to Ann Gonzalez, I found out that she knew more of my family than I did. And she was a Kuno resident where I spent all the formative years in the Nilgiris, formative years of my life. So that's what brings people together, and I'm deeply grateful, ma'am. And of course, there is Professor Mohan Shankar here of the IIT. Mohan Shankar never invites me to anything. He only instructs me to be there. So I am very privileged because he looks younger than me, but he is far wiser. And you will see some of it later on in the program. And so when Ann Gonzalez met me and talked more about MS, I said, quite honestly, I don't know much about this. I'm aware, but I've never been involved. And she said to me, no, you have been involved in the sense that one of your institutions supported us many years ago, and there is still about 35,000 rupees of that support still left. And here I was meeting a wonderful lady who's not only dedicated to the cause, but most diligent. We've supported many institutions, but we've never seen this level of diligence. And I think all of you are very privileged to have someone like Anne Gonsalves and her team. And being here this afternoon, I'm hugely humbled because there are so many of you who may be impacted with MS, but you're all smiling and very positive. So there's so much for us to learn from all of you. And thank you for that opportunity. More so, there are families and caregivers amongst all of you. And I must commend your compassion and your care and your dedication. And to the MS Society of India and members of the Chennai chapter, I most appreciate your commitment, and all of this makes for a truly overwhelming afternoon. Thank you all very much. Now, to those of you who may be impacted, but very rarely show it, I greatly admire your acceptance. I admire your fearlessness and a firm determination to live life as normal as is possible. This is absolutely wonderful. And to your families and caregivers, it's not only a sacrifice that they've made, but they've also made a commitment, not only to themselves and to yourselves, but also to society and country at large. Where do you see such noble people? And to yourselves, as the MS Society of India, you're spreading awareness, you're addressing various aspects of MS, involved in advocacy, organizing support, you're building capability, bringing the best of medical help, particularly to those who cannot afford it. And clearly, it is a relentless and selfless sacrifice. You've given those who are affected much confidence and instilled in them it's their ability that counts and nothing else, and that they are valued citizens. You've leveraged knowledge from across the world through your various chapters. You've facilitated access to care. You've provided medication and other services. So what more can you do? I think there is a lot more. And I think the progress that you have made and the momentum that you have created will certainly take you a long way and will benefit many more people than who are here this afternoon. My readings indicate that approximately 8 persons out of 100,000 or 1 lakh are impacted in India. Well, despite advancements in science and medicine, cure is still elusive. Much is being researched in India and across the world, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Dr. and from Mohan Shankar. And particularly with respect to genetic and environmental factors. And what is worrisome is many younger people are getting impacted more and more. Symptoms do not often indicate this, but neurologists, with the support of advanced diagnostics, have discovered drugs with varying efficacy, as I hear, Doctor. But MS still prevails and progresses rapidly. But medical approaches, be it allopathic, Ayurvedic, different forms of medicine and their respective protocols, are all helping to varying degrees. But it's the support to people who are impacted, which is very vital. And that support needs to be done with the care and compassion. And this is where I believe MSSI plays a very important role. Statistics apart, your role across detection, treatment, and care is vital and long may it continue. To researchers and doctors, thank you for that relentless pursuit of a breakthrough care. Please continue this. I'm sure you will succeed in the future. We are at IIT, one of the premier institutions in our country that all of us can be proud of. And later this evening, you will visit the Brain Center. It's one of the best facilities in the world, if not the best. And you will hear from Professor Mohan Shankar and his team what they are working on. They are working on cutting-edge science and technology, collaborating with so many people, particularly in the medical fraternity and hospitals. And this center has been set up through the generosity and magnanimity of Sudha and Gopalakrishnan. And I must say that Dr. Mohan Shankar and his team are very patient and they are very persevering. And the kind of work that they are doing will really impact society, may not be immediately, but clearly over the next decade. So that's the kind of work you need to do for drug discovery. That's the kind of work that you need to do for diagnosis. And all of it is happening in Chennai. And it's really very commendable that Professor Mohan Shankar, the Brain Center, and MSSI, the Chennai chapter, have all got together to see how best this research can be enhanced and progressed. So to caregivers and families, you have changed or altered your lives to give the impacted and your loved ones their life. What greater service can this be? My salutations to all of you. And finally, to those who have been impacted, do not despair. There are so many people, and through the medium of MSSI, IIT, so many people who are invisible, supporters, like many of whom are here today. All of them are working for a good cause, and they are working to ensure that your lives continue to be meaningful and rewarding. So keep your spirits high. And to MSSI and the Chennai chapter, continue your outstanding work. I thank you for your service and for the occasion. It is really an honor and privilege to be associated with you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, sir. The words were very profound. Taking some points from what sir said, thank you so much, sir, for throwing light on families and caregivers, because without which MSSI and the members, they're coming, going, participating in these things, it can never be possible. So thank you so much for throwing light on them. The next was acceptance, fearless, and trying to lead a normal life. Yes, these are three main things that we need to be following also. Without acceptance, we are just going to be sad all the time. Fearlessness, to an extent, some people are fearful, some people aren't. We try to do MSSI with the guidance of Ms. Anne. We try to do the best to motivate people to do more and more, to focus on their ability, like sir said, and not on their disability. And that helps us move forward, achieving our goals and dreams one at a time. I have to say, I have been affected with MS for the last 20 years. And exactly like how sir said, if I focused on my disability, that would have not made me go even 2 or 3 goals that I have achieved so far, however little they may be. But I think the most important thing, please focus on your ability than your disability, because it will make you achieve your dreams. And thank you so much, sir, for directly or indirectly supporting. We really need people like you, your network, your knowledge, your empathy. We are truly, truly grateful for that. Thank you so much, sir. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Professor Mohana Shankar Shiva Prakasham. He is a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Madras and heads the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center and Health Technology Innovation Center, HTIC. Dr. Shiva Prakasham holds a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and has extensive R&D experience in developing biomedical devices for restoring functionality in diseases like blindness and paralysis. Since returning to India, he has built a leading med tech innovation ecosystem at IIT Madras, addressing unmet healthcare needs with affordable technologies. Under his leadership, HTIC has collaborated with over 20 medical institutions and industry partners, resulting in impactful healthcare solutions. He has been recognized with the INAE Young Engineer Award and IITM's Institute R&D Award. Professor Shiva Prakasham's achievements include guiding numerous PhD and MS scholars, publishing over 300 peer-reviewed papers, and securing 42 patents. His efforts have led to the development and commercialization of several medical technologies, significantly impacting patient care. He has initiated AcroPhase, a research group focused on leveraging technology for human performance enhancement in various fields, including sports and healthcare. He also serves as mentor and advisor to 10+ healthcare technology companies. Welcome, sir. We are very, very fortunate to have you here today. The stage is all yours.
While they're setting up the slides, it's actually an honor and actually quite a privilege to have Mr. Murugappan and sit right next to him. So I was just recollecting that the first presentation I had made to IIT Madras on setting up this Healthcare Technology Innovation Center was when he was on the board. And what was a 15-minute or 10-minute presentation went for about an hour and a half. And that was the kind of time and engagement. So he lets us instruct him more than I should say. So it's an absolute honor, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And he has been guiding us over several decades at IIT Madras. And many of you may not even be aware that he gives personal time to various activities, companies, so many things. He's been giving so much support and time. So thank you. The person to blame for this particular thing is actually, of course, Ms. Gonzalez. I actually honestly don't know how quickly this progressed. It started from Vasudha and Rajesh, who was sitting there. I actually forgot the train of how this happened. So quickly it moved within a matter of weeks, probably days. And suddenly here we are. And so this credit of having this event, and it's such a full, wholesome event, really goes to Anne on this one. So thank you. Thank you, Anne. And Dr. Gandhi, there's nothing for me to say because we have been literally partners in crime on so many things that we have done. If you want to know how collaborations can turn into relationships, it's probably the best example. The first technology that came out of our group, which is in 2011, was actually his. And, even though he moved from Chennai to Hyderabad, he's probably more in Chennai than Hyderabad, thanks to us, right? And we'll keep busy here. And Mr. Chitnis, within a very short time, we are almost at a point of doing something significant. over the next several months, we will actually formalize this thing. So given all this, I thought what I will do today is before you actually go and see the center physically after, we will probably try to close a little early so that you will have time to go and see the center. I'll give you a background about what we do at this particular center and how this is connected to not just MS, but very challenging brain disorders. And it's only sort of appropriate that we have somebody like Dr. Rashmin Gandhi. The field of ophthalmology is perhaps a point which I would like to start with. If you look at how ophthalmology has advanced over the last, particularly over the last 30 years, one of the primary things is we are able to see all the problems. Right? When I say see the problems, we are able to see different sections of the eye at a very, very fine detail, both at a patient level and at the experimental and the research level. If you look at brain today, it is exactly the opposite end, right? Where we cannot see the brain, be it at the patient level or even experimental level with animal models and other human models beyond a millimeter. Right? And evolutionarily also, it has made it very difficult because the brain is inside a very, very hard cavity. So the last time a significant progress was made in brain when it comes to technologies is actually MRI. And this may be very surprising to you. And this happened in the 70s and the 80s. NMR led to MRI. And that is pretty much the last significant progress that happened when it comes to patients. And this problem of not able to see the human brain in a finer detail has limited in multiple ways the progress for disease treatments. The first is, if you can't see something, you actually don't know at what it is in the first place. Right? The second is, if you can't see it, you cannot compare. When you're doing both practice as well as research at the back end, if you can't see the effect of a particular drug, of course, the patient reports a certain thing about how it happens. But at a cellular level and a molecular level, what happens when you subject a particular treatment, be it a drug or be it a certain environmental and genetic factor, which you had spoken about is becoming more and more important. So we have to be able to image the brain at a much more finer resolution. And that's what this center is doing. And you will see that in action in the later part. So this is an overview. And this center is a center that combines technology, neuroscience, medicine, and engineering. And it has brought together close to 30 doctors and about 40, 50 neuroscience experts around the world. And it is truly an example of what can be achieved if very, very diverse set of knowledge and experts can be brought together. And that's always the hardest part. Right? Experts naturally tend to work in silos. As we say, that is what expert is definition. Right? It's like you are deep enough in a certain thing, but that's also the challenge when you work on very complex challenge. And thankfully, at IIT Madras, we have always had this approach of, what we call walking backwards to success, which is if something needed to be done, you sort of ask the question, what all pieces you need? And you try to get those pieces much earlier rather than sort of doing work in siloed and then hope that it will all, collaborate together at a later stage. And this is an example of that. How do I change this one? Thank you. So essentially what we are doing is we are imaging human brains at a cellular resolution. So to define what a cell level size is about 10 micron is what a cell is. So what is 10 micron? Different people may have different ways of imagining. So it's about the human hair is about 50 to 100 micron, which you can see. So 1/5 to 1/10 of that, which you actually cannot see with your naked eye, is what a cell is. And the human brain has close to, in fact, it's still not well known. And Jay is always here to challenge that number. Whenever I tell 100 billion, no, we don't know 100 billion. Right? It's actually anywhere between 80 to 120 billion neurons. And this is just neurons, and there are other cells, and there are close to times 10 the connections. So it is that complexity. And how much is 100 billion? I always like challenging students. Can you explain 100 billion to somebody who does not know 100 or billion? Right? So how do you do that? So if you look at what 100 billion individual objects is, if you think about it, it's about the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Right? So we are dealing with something very complex. It's actually not just complexity because we don't understand it. It is complexity because it is physically complex. So to see all these neurons is one of the first steps you need to actually see how the brain is structured. And as you know, the structure is what determines the function and the way it's dynamically organizes itself. So if you cannot see the structure, the individual cells, the connections, how they're organized, how they change with respect to a certain environment factor or with respect to a certain drug, then you cannot make progress. And many times that is actually the frustration doctors have. And if you take ophthalmology and how retina particularly evolved, is actually exactly what happened, where you were able to see the retina, and you were able to see the retina at almost 10, 20 micron at cellular level in the lab, and about 50 to 100 micron in the practice. So the brain has made this even more complex because you cannot see, the light cannot penetrate the skull. In fact, light cannot penetrate beyond a few hundred microns of tissue. So what you need is you need to image enough post-mortem brains. And this is the paradigm that makes it complex. You need to acquire enough human brains, starting from gestation all the way to old age, with different diseases and different disorders, right? And enough gender balanced, because that is one problem that always has. Medical knowledge has largely been biased towards having more male information. And it has to do with the way access is fundamentally has to do with access. So this is a very hard challenge. And if you are wondering why, if you want to image a human brain at cellular resolution, and if you go about it in a reasonably linear manner, which is, I will make one section of a human brain, which is, let's say, 10 to 20 micron, and then image it at 1 micron level, you probably will need about 2 years, actually more, if you take a linear approach. And obviously, this will yield only one brain. So how do you do 100 to 200 brains, which is about 3 to 4 brains in about 30 to 40 categories of age and diseases? So this was the challenge. And as Mr. Murugappan had mentioned, in 2014, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, who is an alumnus of IIT Madras, when he stepped off as CEO of Infosys, he really said, we want to do something, I want to support something in this field, but something that can make a significant impact at a global level. And also something that can be done taking advantage of India's strengths. Right? So there are many things that have to come together if you want to do something big. And we spent a couple of years, particularly 16, 17, looking at various things. What can we do which can make a significant impact, which is also a very deep problem, but requires a big risk and sort of boldness to move the needle. And in 2018, we decided to pursue this ambitious goal, which is to image human brains at cellular resolution. And that's the reason I share this is, you do something, there is a lot of forces that have to line up. And in one way, this gathering actually is one way represents that kind of lining up of forces where you need different pieces and different expertise to come together. Then we went to the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor. Professor Vijay Raghavan was the PSA at that time, 2020. And he took the big step saying that we will support this. And then this was reviewed by about 40, 45 experts globally. And they all said the same thing, saying it's extremely risky, this project itself, but it should be done because, if India develops something and if India is able to do something at a scale, it will invariably be accessible at what happened in vaccines, and what is happening in vaccines and generics is something that potentially can be scaled if something is done in India. And that's how it started. And many of you may not have heard about it. It's because it happened during COVID period. 2020 to 2022 is when most of the work happened. And then the center is now physically there. And in a very short time, you'll meet the team. We have been able to generate human brain results starting from fetal and neonatal, right? At a volume and at a speed, at a resolution, which is today truly world-class. The first time such work has been done at such volume. Thank you. And we are now already started to do adult brains. I think when you visit the center, you will see 2 of the adult brains being processed currently. And it is brought together close to the team itself is around 150 people. And in addition to collaborators, medical, neuroscience, all around the world, we have close to 250 people. And, this in one way goes back to what I was mentioning. And this is a very a telling statement by the Nobel laureate Francis Crick. He wrote this in 1993. He had won the Nobel Prize in 63, right? For the work he has done in 50s on DNA. Right? So he was able to figure the DNA structure, and it was published. And he was wondering in this particular very telling article, sort of in a very harsh way, criticizing, saying, we need new techniques to image the human brains because that's the only way we can make progress. And it turns out it has been waiting for a long time. This problem is actually a problem which cannot be cracked just with biology alone. You need engineering, you need technology, you need medicine, figuring out the details of the biology and then slowly applying them to medicine through technology. So it is that layered, a very complex collaborative approach. And this picture is a very good summary. So this is the large human brain. Today we can see the human brain at this level, about 1 millimeter. Right? We are seeing through this technology we have developed, we are able to see the brain at this level, about 1 micron. And the process of it is extremely complex, right? Because as you know, the brain is a very large organ and you cannot penetrate light into it. So you have to slice the brain into very thin sections. And what happens when you slice something very thin and very large, it collapses, right? Like how you cut vegetables. You always want to cut it thin, but the thinner you cut, it collapses very fast. So this is a material problem also. Right? So you freeze the brain, right, at -80 degrees Celsius, and then we develop special equipment. All the equipment you see at the center has all been indigenously developed, and that's an R&D by itself. Right? So there is R&D within R&D, which we have figured it out in the last 2 years. And today, you are able to section an entire adult brain in less than a month and a half, and we're able to image this in less than few months. And we are working to accelerate this to probably do it in less than a month, actually, if possible. And we are trying to accelerate this technology. And as a result of that, what do you get? You get what you have not been able to see before. What the clinicians have not been able to see is how does this brain look like at a cellular level detail, right, across the entire brain. Right? Of course, you can take a biopsy of a certain region and look at it. That's usually a few millimeters square, a few millimeter cube. But how does the entire, and as you know, the brain is very complex because of the way it interacts with different regions, and with something that Dr. Gandhi will share. And after this, what do you have? You have digital images. And if you're wondering how big is the digital image, it's about few petabytes. It's about 1,000 laptops worth data. Right? And it is bigger than the entire Google map, which you can imagine how big it is. And this is one brain. So that is the level of complexity which we are tackling. And thanks to the technological advancement that we have made over the last few years, we are at an extraordinary pole position. And that's something that I've shared with Mr. Murugappan, is we can scale very quickly now. Over the next couple of years, we will be the first in the world to have generated enough human brain data of enough pathologies. Okay? And the type of diseases we are looking at largely fall in, either developmental disorders, which is at a very early stage, or neurodegenerative disorders, where the brain starts having either aging or autoimmune, which starts to have very, very similar neurodegenerative. That's something that we are discussing. Can we even start with the neurodegenerative disorder brains quickly so that we can draw parallels from there and apply to MS? And there is one aspect of this, you're probably wondering, how are these brains acquired, right? How are these brains acquired? And that is actually truly a selfless effort from the doctors, medical institutions, and patients and their families who have come forward to let it donate the brains post-mortem. And that's a very sensitive process, time sensitive. Within about 6 to 8 hours, sometime maximum 12 hours, we acquire these brains, the doctors. And then this process, what you just heard of, is being done. So, and this is, really how the brain, and that's actually an actual picture in terms of size. So you will realize that is about a 1,200 cc, 10 to 15-year-old adult brain. And how quickly you realize the scale builds up. And that's actually a wonder of a human brain. And the moment you start processing, and we are today in one way, that's a good way of looking at it. We have progressed from fetal and we are at neonatal right now. And we are all set to scale adult brains in a significant manner. And in fact, there's nothing that's stopping us except from doing more brains once we get support, and which we are getting. And you will see this more. These are thousands of sections of brain. And for people who are familiar with this kind of thing, this is a zoom out version. So that is the level of detail we are able to see. So just imagine that entire brain being seen at that level of detail. And it's the first time, and across multiple brains. And again, I want to emphasize this. The brain, for an anatomical point of view, you can probably live with 1 or 2 brain images. But with the moment you're dealing with diseases and different kinds of diseases, you need about n is equal to 3 or 4 in each category. And that's where the number 130, 140 brains that we are after comes in. So this is quite an historic video. This is the first time, and they shared with the world about 2 months ago in one of the large conferences. All this data that we acquire is put together in a 3D form so that a neurologist or a brain scientist can look at this brain in any angle at any level of detail. And what you're seeing there, and you will wait for the cellular level detail to show up. And that is the level of detail which you can see the brain. And this is a particular 22-week-old gestational brain. And this is what we've accomplished till date. Right? About 50 fetal brains have been processed fully. About 100 brains are waiting in the pipeline. And the best part is the technology is very mature at this point of time. There is no R&D that is needed on the technology. So all the efforts can be directed towards imaging these brains at a much higher throughput so that the medical community, and this is something that Ms. Chitnis and I were discussing, how we make this available. And then I talked about the cellular aspects, but these individual brain cells and sections can now be subjected to different chemical tests. So you will get the chemical map, you will get the molecular map, and also how different drugs. So the way you will see it is you take this particular section and you can stain it using different chemicals, and how it reacts is something can be imaged. And all this are waiting now. This can happen at a large, significant scale. So, and why are we doing all this? If you look at, you're taking this much efforts and so many people have collaborated with us, it's to fundamentally to do what is being said there. It's to advance our understanding so that it can be applied to disease diagnosis and treatment. That is the ultimate goal. And you have seen some of us here, but the people who have not seen are really the selfless doctors who are working from different fields, who all come together to make this possible. And, as Mr. Murugapan was saying, and the reason why this happened, why the world was, attracted to this work is essentially the quality of work that has happened till date. Until, as you can see in the map, close to 25 to 30 who's who of the world brain research are collaborating with us right here in Chennai. And, true to Chennai's character, it never talks about it. And IIT Madras, as usual, is quite self-effacing in the way it does. And these are the world's leading people who are here, and you will be seeing them eating, guest house food in Taramani Guest House and enjoying the work that's happening. And that's something to be proud of. And I will sort of summarize from a human standpoint is how all this happened is essentially starts with a certain risk. And this is something that Chitnis and I were discussing. Go back 4 years or even 5 years. Imagine the amount of risk if I propose a project like this to you, right? For that matter, anybody. Right? But that risk was taken specifically by Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan and the PSA office, and then came the support from Premji Group, Fortis Hospitals, Agilus Diagnostics, and recently from Ford. And the Dean ACR office has been instrumental in getting all this support. And thanks to that, we are at a extraordinary pole position to make this in a very big way. And IIT is doing its work, which I think it's our job to do the work. But I truly will salute the medical collaborators, the patients, and the families who have really played a big role in making this happen. Right? A big applause to them. So this is where we are. I will stop here by saying that we are, truly world-class work is happening, which is happening with a single goal that we will generate knowledge that will translate practice. But it's such a hard problem that you cannot expect these things to happen in months and a couple of years. Right? So if you go back in cardiology and ophthalmology, continuous progress was made almost through the last 4 decades. Almost every 5 years, we have had a progress. If you compare that with brain sciences in general, neurology and medicine, any significant progress has not happened over the last 30 years. Right? So it's actually a very hard problem. And we have taken the first steps. And with all your blessings and support, we'll be able to contribute much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a load of scientific information that we got. I don't know how many people understood most of it, but I would like to just, reiterate some points that sir said. The first one being, if you can't see, you can't compare. And if it's so true, because we don't know, as people who have MS, we are going through the symptoms, we are going through all the conditions, but we don't know what is right, what is wrong, what we have to compare, what we have to see to, take down data. This is what Anne ma'am, we always keep saying, we don't know. And we are in the dark right now. What should we see to tell the professionals that this is what is happening for them to move forward? Sir, I think this is a breakthrough, and we are very, very happy that the people who actually took, they took the risk to have the faith in this technology, and we are very fortunate to come in contact with sir and their team and everybody as a whole, because I seriously feel there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a matter of, being patient. And I'm very sure that there will definitely be light at the end of the tunnel to have this huge breakthrough. All the very best, sir. Our good wishes, all the very, very, very best. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, my thing is just starting up. Okay. Let us get the next speaker. I'm very honored to welcome our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Ashmin Gandhi. Dr. Gandhi is an eminent figure in the field of neuro-ophthalmology with an impressive array of credentials and achievements. Dr. Gandhi is a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, FRCS, and ICO Fellow at the prestigious Johns Hopkins University. He currently serves as the director of Axon MedTech Private Limited, Foresight Worldwide, and Cygnus LLC in UAE. His leadership and vision have significantly advanced these organizations in their respective fields. In addition to his corporate roles, Dr. Gandhi is the country director for India and principal researcher at the Davos Alzheimer's Collaborative, an initiative of the World Economic Forum. His work in this capacity underscores his commitment to groundbreaking research and global health improvements. Dr. Gandhi is also a founding member of the Indian Neuro-Ophthalmology Society, reflecting his dedication to advancing medical knowledge and fostering collaboration within the professional community. Previously, Dr. Gandhi served as a board member and director at the Shankarnetralaya Academy, where his contributions were pivotal in enhancing the institution's educational and healthcare delivery standards. Currently, he is a consultant neuro-ophthalmologist at the Center for Sight in Banjara Hills, Hyderabad, where he continues to provide exceptional care and expertise to his patients. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Gandhi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Mr. Murugappan, MSMI, it's an honor to be here. I had an honor to be part of World MS Day with MSMI last year in Hyderabad, and I'm thrilled that I'm again here with you. A word about my friend, Dr. Mohan. As he said, we have been collaborating for the last 13 years, and we have an inherent advantage of our names. Whenever we go, we say, Mohan Gandhi has come, and the doors open up automatically. And I'm going to continue the flavor of what other speakers, including what Ms. Archana said, that we are very excited because the science is progressing at a very fast speed. So I'm going to go back a little bit, few centuries, and say that how have we reached here? What were we thinking how brain functioned in 15th, 16th, 17th century? How that thinking impacted how we treated diseases like multiple sclerosis and optic nerve problem, and how we have reached here. So this is very informal, interactive session, and I've put up some questions, and I'm very happy if people can just shout out answers. I'm going to talk about this gentleman, a German physician. His name was Frank Anton M. I want you to tell me what the M stands for. He believed that the whole body communicated at those days with each other, each part, by fluid movement. So he said that everything is a fluid movement. And a disease is when this fluid is not moving properly. And if you want this harmonious fluid movement in the body, his recipe, his treatment was he'll sit in front of the patient. He'll give a lot of verbal suggestion. He will suggest to patient, do this, do this, do this. He will make a lot of gestures and get patient's attention. And he believed that with this kind of constant talking to patient and to suggestions, the fluid will become harmonious in its movement and disease will go away. So my question is, I mean, there are a lot of clues. And why I've put M as a blank, because we remember this gentleman, German physician, because there is now a verb in English language, which we all use even now. And when I posted this question 5 years ago in Ahmedabad, again, the flavor was similar. There were a lot of people who shouted because it was M. So I just put a clue saying it's not Modi. So yeah, any clue? Anybody giving a try? Who is this Frank Anton M? As I said, it's a verb now, which we all use. We all have heard of this verb. And the verb is based on mobile. Oh, well, good. therapy should get the spirit out. And I've given you a clue by putting my picture there. What do you think he was suggesting to his patients with optic neuritis as a mode of treatment? And this tells you what the science was during that period. Because they believed it was all vapor has to come out from the head. So he said, oh, he would tell the patient, do this 3 times a day, 2 minutes each time. Any smile, laugh? Yeah, but why my picture is there? Comb the hair, absolutely right. Well done. So he used to say, just keep combing your hair and the spirit will come out. He never thought of patients like me. If I got it, what I would have done. Anyways, yeah, so combing. So in other words, that's where the science was. It progressed a little bit. We come to 17th, 18th century. This is again a quiz question. Louis G. He said that, no, it's not all fluid, it's all electricity. The brain generates electricity and brain transmits that electricity to various parts of the body, and that's how it communicates. And he was right. He is right. I mean, that's how we communicate. I mean, the brain sends impulse, which is essentially an electrical energy. He was partly wrong that it's not entirely generated by the brain, but the communication between different parts of the body is through the electrical current. Again, he was the one who suggested that if it's an electrical current, there has to be an insulating material, which is a fat, which is myelin, and which is what gets affected in multiple sclerosis. So also pertaining to our thought. So again, any idea what G stands for? Again, not Gandhi. Louis G. Yes. Galvani, brilliant. Again, round of applause. I mean, very, very good. I was thinking that maybe many of these questions will not be answered, but all of them are getting answered. And so what's the word how we have honored him? Galvanometer, galvanizing, the English word galvanizing, galvanic is all based on galvanic. So he was the one who said that, no, it's not fluid, it's the electrical impulse. Some group of writers, and this is little out of science, these are good, well-known writers, they picked up this whole concept saying, oh, if it's in electricity, and especially Mary and her husband, Percy, they picked it up saying, oh, if it's all an electricity, then a dead person means that the electricity is gone. You recharge the electricity and he'll become alive. So they wrote a horror novel, which has become a cult novel, and movies. Any idea? Frankenstein, Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley, and they had actually a competition, and they wrote Frankenstein, which is obviously a cult novel, but they got the concept right, saying it's all electricity. Now, how did we use this concept in day-to-day clinical practice? This is how we used to monitor patients who had optic neuritis. Optic neuritis is an inflammation of the optic nerve, which is one of the common problems that a patient with multiple sclerosis can face. And the only way we were able to, as an ophthalmologist, we were able to say that, yeah, this patient who has an only eye problem, but can have some issue with the brain, is by taking this graph, because we know it's an electrical activity. So we used to take this graph, look at the graph and say, oh, this person who has an eye problem can be at a risk of developing multiple sclerosis. And this is called VEP. So that's how the science evolved. Fluid, electricity, and that's how the treatment evolved. Who are these people? Beetles. Oh, what are they doing in a brain class? It's a part of evolution of our knowledge. Any idea? They're associated with brain. Meditation, good. I mean, they used to go to Himalayas and meditation. I'm sure they actually made meditation as a therapy popular because they used to do it. But something little more materialistic. Music therapy, no. So okay, let me tell you. So Beatles were first contracted by a company called EMI. So EMI, they got lucky because Beatles were not very well known. They had a contract with EMI and the records really had bumper sell. So EMI had an engineer working with them called Hounsfield. So Hounsfield always had this penchant for doing a lot of innovation. So a lot of this sale from the Beatles record selling went to Hounsfield, who developed a particular way of investigation, which was released in 1972 and was called EMI Grapher. but we all have seen it. We all know about it. What is this investigation called now? It's called CT scan. So basically, a CT scan was developed because EMI got lucky by having Beatles with them, and then they were benevolent enough to donate that money for furtherment of science. So a CT scan was a first effort in 70s, as Mohan was saying, to look at the brain. And that's where a lot of breakthroughs started coming in, saying up till now, we are only surmising by looking at the graph, saying, oh, this is what is going on. Let me see if I can treat it in a particular way. But once the CT scan was developed, we were able to see a brain at a reasonable resolution. And that's how the furtherment again in a disease process or a treatment of MS and optic neuritis happened. In 70s, after 5 or 6 years, CT scan got upgraded by MRI scan, which does not use the radiation, but it gives you a much better imaging than what a CT scan can give. And this gave us a lot of insight into, especially specialists like us. If we look at the eye, and it gave us an insight saying, if I see a patient with an inflammation of the optic nerve, I do MRI, and if I find all these white dots, I know that I need to consult neurologist and start the treatment immediately. And if I start the treatment immediately, it will do a lot of good for the patient. So furtherment of science happened because we were, as Mohan was saying, we were able to see the brain by CT scan and MRI scan. Is there any other disease where this has been manifested, that we saw a brain and the whole disease changed? Again, a quiz question. This was an interview which was conducted by a scientist named A. It was his patient, a lady called August Dieter, who used to forget things. And this is an interview which is a very famous interview where he asked his patient, and his lady said, what's your name? August. Husband's name? August. Where do you live? Oh, you've been to our place. So a very incoherent, irrelevant answering. So this person, who is this A? Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer actually followed up this patient. When the patient died, she had moved to another country. Alzheimer contacted the country, opened the brain, did the sectioning, and he proved that that lady was not of a simple dementia, but she was suffering from a disease which is now we know as a Alzheimer's disease. Again, signifying that looking at the brain at such a level changed our understanding of the disease. And now that's a platform on which we are building the treatment. So in other words, I conclude by saying that this is exactly the effort which Dr. Mohan and the team at Brain Center is looking at. If we look at the brain in such detail, can we change the paradigm, the treatment paradigm? The first thing is always to know what's going on. And that's where then we can change how that abnormality can be made into a normal structure. A part of it, which Mohan and I are also doing, is, as was mentioned, with World Economic Forum. We are looking at a very large-scale community study as well. And we already signed papers. We're going to start in Bihar and in Hyderabad, where we're going to look at 30,000-40,000 people and have our algorithm tested on their ability to answer. And that will give us an insight into Alzheimer's disease. And I'm sure with the partnership with MSMI, something similar can be done on multiple sclerosis itself. I really thank all of you for this honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. That was also a lot of information, because we would not have known that Beatles contributed a little bit towards CT scan and everything. So thank you so much for that. In the thing that you said about optic neuritis and the graph that was going up and down, and then it's like how Sir said that, walking backwards to succeed. Would there be, it's just a small question that has always run in my mind, that when you saw the graph with a person with an eye problem who can be susceptible to MS, but people who have MS, we don't know whether that is a normal eye problem or whether it is related to something that is degenerative MS or something. So if you can just throw a little bit light on that. Thank you, Doctor.
Fantastic question. So the question is that if we have MS, how do we make sure that our eye problem is not something which is related to MS, but just a watering because you looked at the mobile for a longer period of time or whatever, power change, yeah. So the bottom line, because these two are related, that's what we advise all our patients, that if you have any eye problem, don't trivialize it. You need to go to, the chances of you getting it may not be very high, but the reason why you should not trivialize is that because if you go to an eye doctor fast and if they recognize it, institution of the treatment, that is steroids, would prevent further damage to the optic nerve and also would lead to a very fast recovery. The good news about optic neuritis and MS is that in most instances, the recovery is 100%. It's very frightening when the attack comes to you. You'll feel that the vision has gone down, but then in a few weeks with the treatment, vision comes back. But the take-home message is that any eye problem, especially in a younger age, don't trivialize it. You can sit. Sit.
Rajesh.
Hi, Rajesh. Good evening, Rajesh.
Good evening, sir. Actually, I'm a MS patient, but while I'm working in a company, that time itself, I have little bit slight dullness. Before that, I have wearing almost since school is I'm wearing eyeglasses for sight, short sight. So that time, little dullness happened like that. So I did that epilepsy treatment. After 2 years later only, I know that I was diagnosed with MS. So, but after
I can hear you. Yeah.
I saw normal now. So the darkness or something happened due to MS, or after the epilepsy treatment, MS can't able to attack the optic.
No, those two are not related. However, the problem that you faced is very less likely. I'm not saying 0%, but very less likely to be related to MS because the MS and an optic nerve problem, by and large, in majority of the patients, 95% of the patients, would come as an acute event. It will not come, and that's the other thing that people can look at saying, is there any acute event that you were fine on Friday and Saturday, the vision has dropped by 50%, 30%. The other symptoms that you can look at is that if you feel that you're not happy with your vision, always look at a red object. Gaze at a red object and just cover each eye and see whether red color appears equal in both the eyes. If the red color appears equal in both the eyes, you're likely to be normal. But as I said, even that does not mean that you don't go to a doctor. Always make sure that the eyes are checked. But just for you to say that, yeah, it's fine, but I'm going to get it checked.
Thank you, doctor. I would also ask one more question to doctor because this is neuro-ophthalmology. Doctors that are opticians and neuro-ophthalmologists, see, when we have a problem with the eye, we go to the nearest eye doctor. So they are eye doctors, and I don't know whether they are the right people to be approached when there are problems like this, because all they're going to do is have a routine checkup, probably dilate the eye, check your power. And sometimes we do really have problem with normal vision, and that's a different thing. But there are times when you do feel that it's not normal, but when you say that to the doctor, what they tell us in return is it will get better. And I don't know whether that is a right answer when you know that it is not normal for your body.
So first thing first, yeah. Obviously, you will go to eye doctor because there are not many neuro-ophthalmologists that you'll find in a lot of cities. And most eye doctors now are equipped to differentiate between a problem which is because of the optic nerve related to MS and a problem which is because of glasses or something else. And there are signs. We typically look at how your pupils are behaving. We give you a book and we make you read this color vision. And as I said, color vision is a very sensitive test. You can yourself can tell the doctor, even if doctor is not really giving an emphasis, saying that, no, but I see a washed out color. And then again, his antenna will be up. But a normal eye doctor, an eye doctor is somebody who will be easily be able to differentiate by clinical examination itself between the two.
Thank you so much, doctor. So I think we are almost to the end of the program. Does anybody have any other questions for the panel or? You want to say a few words? And Ashwin sir, I really thank you because I was diagnosed with a poor eye. They said optic neuritis. Here go to one neuro doctor. Don't go to another eye doctor. Whatever. And for recorded is a camera network because of optic neuritis. I really thank all of you on the diet, especially my mouth, please, and thanks a lot for making this program happen. Very valuable, really valuable. You've learned so much of information. No one will guide us. Really wonderful. I wish this was there for the whole day. Probably give them 4 or 5 years. You really learned so much. So much of Thank you, Maheshwari ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm very sure everyone else here will resonate the same towards Anne ma'am. Yes, sir. So we come to the end of the program. It was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful few hours that was spent with so much to learn, like Maheshwari ma'am said. There are so many things that we still don't know, even though we claim to know that, yes, this is this, and, these are the parameters that I have. And we try to self-diagnose a lot of times, but I think the main takeaway from this particular program is, like the theme says, we are navigating MS together. We cannot do it all alone. And the other thing is, always, like how sir said, we have to go backwards to succeed because we need to do data analysis. We have to go step by step as to figuring out what is normal, what is abnormal. You are the best judge of what your body is telling you. So thank you so much for all those valuable points. Ma'am, can we please have you to say the vote of thanks?
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, Anne Gonzalez, on behalf of the Multiple Sclerosis Society of India and Chennai chapter, take immense pleasure in expressing my sincere gratitude to the people or dignitaries on the dais for today's event. I would like to begin thanking the Almighty God or making today's event a rousing success. We are able to make events like this possible only by his blessings. I'm overwhelmed by the showers of gratitude from my fellow MS persons. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Mr. M.M. Murugappan, who is a renowned businessman and a fourth generation industrialist, for taking time out of his busy schedule to attend this event. Your thoughts have truly inspired us, sir. As Mr. Murugappan said, I know more of his family than he. I will let him into more secrets sometime. I would like to thank Professor Mona Shankar Sivaprakasam, Head of HTIC, Healthcare Technology Innovation Center, and IIT Brain Center for his articulate speech. And we are really grateful and looking forward to working with you, Professor. Time was no constraint when I met him. It just moved so quick, so fast over a few weeks, and we are here today. Something remarkable. He accepted my request, and after that, there was no turning back. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much. I sincerely thank Dr. Rashmin Gandhi, a neuro-ophthalmologist, for his thought-provoking quiz knowledge and sharing session with us. I'd like to thank Bosch Limited. We have our Executive General Manager here, for their continued support in providing us with office space over the last 27 years. I'm one of the founder members of the MSSI with Mrs. Dolly Khanna here. And 27 years, wherever they went, whatever they did, we were part of that. It has given us great support. Thank you, sir. I wish to thank BNY Mellon for supporting us under their CSR program over the last 4 years for procuring medicines, physiotherapy, and meeting the needs of our MS persons. A bigger thank you to them for their volunteer support over the last 10 years. Thank you to Mrs. Garima Prakash from Madhavalal Bikula Trust for supporting our patients over the last 20 years. I thank Lady Willingdon Trust for psychotherapy support and over the last 5 years. Mr. Murugappan is part of that group. That is the group you mentioned, Mr. Murugappan. We have been getting good psychotherapy support. I wish to thank Quality Milk Foods, Savita Jain Foundation, Dr. Venkatraman, the neurologist, who has been our mentor and guiding support for the last so many years, and all the other neurologists in Chennai for their constant support and assistance. I thank our friends in the media for their cooperation and coverage of these events. I would like to thank the Distinguished Institute IIT Madras, as we are really privileged to collaborate with IIT Brain Research Center for our future endeavors to find out the cause of multiple sclerosis. I am totally grateful to be part of such incredible collaboration, and I'm wishing all of us a great success in this great venture. Finally, I'd like to convey my gratitude to each and every one of you here for taking time to join us today and assisting us in making this event a big success. Thank you one and all for coming. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. So we come to the end of the program. I wish everybody a fantastic evening. There is apparently a very interesting match going on also. So I hope you have a really, really good evening. The high tea will be served in the dining room adjacent to the auditorium. And people who are interested to see the brain center, there are people in the entrance of the building that can guide you further. So if you can go and you can tell them that you need to see the brain center, they will guide you after the high tea, after the high tea. Yes, please finish your high tea and then we can take a tour of the brain center. Thank you so much. Thank you, the dignitaries, one and all. Thank you, everybody, because this is an event that happens once every year, and so much of information learned, so much of data shared, so many dignitaries, so many, things that we have learned. And it's like, I think the theme this year is the best because it is navigating MS together. Nobody can do it alone. And we need interdisciplinary, knowledge, interdisciplinary expertise to travel this together to achieve our dreams and goals. Thank you so much, one and all. Thank you.